Welcome to the M6P Back to Books. I'm your host, Darrin, and it's been a while, but we have the old crew back, Jared, John, and Kevin, and today we're going to talk about the Warren Ellis arc of Secret Avengers from 2010. John, lead the way.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, it's been a while. Welcome back to books. So yeah, this is what do we have? 6 issues here, 16 through 21, all Warren Ellis written, but a different artist on each issue with varying styles that we can talk about. Like the very first issue was Jamie McElvey was the artist, and that was called Subland Empire. And we've got a team of secret Avengers, so they're going underground, literally and figuratively in this issue,
Did
to
I say it
face
wrong?
off against
Sorry.
the Shadow Council. There they are. There's the issue. And Kevin, you're the biggest Warren Ellis fan we have here, so let's start
Mhm.
on a positive note. What did you think of this issue and this whole? You can feel free to take it as much as you want. Talk about what you want. If you want to keep to this one, or talk about his whole
Uh,
arc here.
yeah, I guess since you just introduced the first issue, we can kind of talk about it. I think out of all the issues in the entire series, I think this one is a bit of a rough start. I don't think he gets all the characterizations perfect. This is the first time I think he's writing Moon Knight. This is the first time he's getting writing Beast. And whereas I really enjoy his writing and I like it, I don't think he gets those characterizations down perfect. And I have a feeling that's going to be a big Jared, because I think Jared already mentioned he's not a fan of this. I think that may be where one of the points Jared doesn't like. Um, I like this though for the fact that it drops you in the middle of the action. You have to pick up context clues as the story progresses to kind of figure out what's going on, figure out why they're there, what they're doing, and then it's kind of in and out. There's not, it's not an earth-shattering climax or anything like that. It's not a crazy revelation. It just everything just kind of happens, leads to a climax, and then they pull out and it's kind of done. Um, what I like about this is one of my favorite comics of all time is a series called Planetary that Warren Ellis did with and of course I just lost his name.
Is it
Everybody
John
can say
Cassidy?
it is. Yes, I was yeah, RIP. And
Yeah.
so for me this is very, very much a planetary feeling comic where you kind of have to read it almost two or three times to really understand what's going on. And it's not even that it's complex or super deep. It's just he's not holding your hand at all while you read this. You're kind of on your own and you have to figure out from context clues what's going on. And that kind of happens through um, the rest of the series. But again, if you don't like the way he's writing Beast or Moon Knight, and I think Moon Knight gets better as this series progresses, and then or as this arc progresses, and then obviously I think he nails it in when he did the solo writing on Moon Knight. But yeah, I can understand why someone may not or may be turned off by reading the rest of the series after reading this one issue. I could tell that.
Speaking of that, Jared, what did you think of the first issue of Warren Ellis's arc on Secret Avengers? I know it hits close to home, literally and figuratively, that it's a right under Cincinnati. There's this secret city that the Shadow Council has taken over,
Yeah.
and what did
Yeah.
you think?
I think for all the reasons that Kevin liked it, were reasons I didn't care for it. But that's the beauty of this ragtag team of four is we're all very different and we think differently. We're all brought together by our love of Marvel, but we see the world and Marvel comics in very different ways. And that's why I think the four of us kind of make this work, you know? Um, Beast and Moon Knight, I didn't even recognize those characters. Kevin is correct. They were very oddly written. I didn't even know who they were if I wouldn't have seen a guy in a KKK outfit and a blue lion from Wizard of Oz standing there talking. I would have no idea who these characters were. For it to be such a big, I mean, this was a big deal. There's a 3 mile down city run by the secret council, and they got Doctor Doom's radioactive time machines that could take the city away, kill millions, and displace it somewhere else. But we're going to wrap this up by the end of this issue. It seemed like it wanted to have these big world things, and we wrapped it up in a bow really quick by having Moon Knight jump and his feet destroyed the front of this car, which I didn't realize that Moon Knight could do that kind of stuff, not having super strength. But hey, he did it. So it fell pretty flat for me.
And Darrin, how did it feel for you? Flat, high, good, bad?
Man, well, I did not like it going into it and starting this. I was definitely like, oh boy, this is going to be one of the like to Kevin's point, go back and read a few times, or like with a Nolan film, you got to rewatch. But um, I'm going to try to pull some of the positives. I didn't like the characterizations much, and I didn't like how they went in further issues too much either. I'm gonna try to pull some positives. I mean, I liked it was in Cincinnati. Seemed like a very, as far as the writing, much more adult. Maybe that is why you kind of have to really go at your pain. He's not holding, like Kevin said, he's not holding your hand while you're going through everything. It was weird because it was kind of both slow and fast for me, if that makes sense. Like the read, like I'd just be like trying not to fall asleep at certain points. The next thing I know is, oh, bam, something's happening. I got to catch up. What's going on? And, I think the highlight of the issue, even though wasn't a big fan of the characterization, was to see, Beast like, oh, we can just turn this car into a nuclear bomb, essentially, or a nuclear device. So that was kind of cool. I was like, all right, there's a little bit of Beast, just figuring out a solution right there using his mutant intelligence and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of I wasn't different. I have to say if going in that first issue, I was not a fan. I'll read the next one, but there's 5 others.
Okay. I guess I'm probably closer to Kevin than to you guys, but not over the top, especially this first issue. Again, it's the introductory issue. What do we get into? I do like the idea, this whole series of standalone issues. And like Kevin said, there's rereadability to them, if that's a word. And if I read these on the app, but if I was still collecting comics at the time, or if I was a kid that could only pull down 4 comics a month or whatever, and I had one comic, one story in my hand that I could reread over and over again, that'd be great. I wish this was out then, but it's out now. And now we're reading it where we have, 10,000 comic books on our phone if we want to pay for the service. So it's a different time and but it is cool. That's how I think comics should be. Kind of, yeah, an overarching story, but each one should be able to be read itself unless it's a major event or a major. And I like that. I like a lot of the science. I'm not a big Warren Ellis fan, but in this series, I really liked the science in this one. I did not like, and I don't like going forward. So these are going to be my same gripes. Is like they just kill everybody, and they killed at least the Beast shows remorse here and later in the series, but they killed a lot of people. I know it's a quick decision. It was either them or Cincinnati and anything else, wherever else they go in time. So had to be done, but. Those are my thoughts on this specific issue. The second issue was number 17, and our old friend Kev Walker comes back to pencil that one. Kev Walker, who we talked about on the Avengers Arena. He was the artist there. This one's called Beast Box, and it's about a ghost zombie truck and pilot that are abducting Eastern European towns, and Secret Avengers have to stop it.
I knew you say it like that. That was really good.
I'd watch that movie.
I mean, that's the elevator pitch, essentially. Yeah. But let's start with Darrin on this one. What did you think of the Beast Box and the zombie truckers from Bolsheviks?
This was another one that just started off a little slow for me. I did not. I want to jump right in. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of the art in this
Yeah,
one. I just was not a fan of it at all. It didn't feel like a comic book art. That kind of my subconscious kept honing in on that while I was trying to read it, and that didn't help anything. Um, the whole Shadow Council kind of getting more into them, like I don't know. They obviously we dive more and more into them as we go further along and stuff, but it's kind of a weird just they're kind of there. You know, you don't really see them a ton, you know they're there. You see I don't know. I don't know. That issue kind of
yeah.
got me a little lost. I was all over the place. I didn't get into that one. That's where I'm at on it.
All right. Jared, did this one fall better than the first one for you? Or are you starting to rub off on you? Or you still feeling the same?
This issue was when I started to text Darrin and say, are you liking this?
I had already I was like, good luck.
He's like, I've already read it all. Good luck.
It-
But yeah, the
Well,
artist, I remember him on Thunderbolts. He did some work on Thunderbolts, and me just being not a huge fan. It's like almost a wannabe Brandon Peterson, I think, and Brandon Peterson isn't even that great. So I'm like, ooh, uh, it's just not my style. How about that? Not my style. Not that Brandon isn't great. So Brandon, if you want to come on the show, I know you're watching, but just not my preference. So yeah, reading it, I didn't know what I know Kevin is a lot smarter than me. Like I already know this. But I thought, what is going on? I don't understand. There's like this creature in a semi truck. What and then Valkyrie's here, but she wasn't in the last, so I didn't really know what was going on a whole lot. And that's when the skimming started of this issue. So, uh, and not a fan. No, not a big fan. But I do want to point out that Sharon got some great lip filler though.
oh, I forgot.
Oh, yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
She hit up LA and then headed off to fight the semi truck zombies.
Yeah. And Kevin, here you got to redeem us with your thoughts on this issue that the other two fellows didn't seem to care for too much.
So I will say I think this is the weakest overall issue in the entire
Yeah.
arc. I still like it. I like Warren Ellis does this thing where he just takes like one little idea, and it's usually like a science fiction idea, and he just kind of, especially in comic books, he loves to go to this nth degree and really make it bonkers because he loves comic books, but he also understands that they're silly. And so he really plays that up. And I think you get that all through this arc. If you really want that from him, it's Next Wave, but I have a feeling you guys would never even read that. Um, Next Wave is fantastic, by the way, though. But I think this is a fun issue. It's not a great issue. I don't even know if it's a good issue. I don't mind Kev Walker's art. Again, it's not my favorite style, but you know, I think it does work. I don't think this is to the caliber of what he was doing in Avengers Arena. Was that what we read that he did? Yeah, which
Yeah.
I think that was absolutely fantastic. Again, when you're doing a one shot with a different artist every issue, I don't know that the artist is getting the time to really figure out the characters the same way that a writer figures out characters. So I can see why that would be an issue. And again, I did warn you guys to go back and read from the beginning of the series because Valkyrie is part of the Secret Avengers from the very beginning with Ed Brubaker's run. The only person I think he brings in is Beast. I don't remember Beast being part of Brubaker's run.
He was. He
He
was.
was okay,
Yeah.
but Warren Ellis doesn't bring in Richard Rider's Nova, which was part
No.
of Ellis's run, and that's my
Right.
biggest gripe with all of Ellis's work here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's a fun issue. It's kind of a bonkers over the top. I think it's the one with the least rereadability. I think you kind of get the gist of everything going on the first time you read it. But yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably just repeat everything you guys said. Kevin Walker to me is more for like an independent comic artist. I could see him doing The Walking Dead or something like that, or you know, this again was more of an action issue, I guess. So it depends on the art to come through, and his wasn't the strongest, and it wasn't bad, but I'll notice in this one we talked about characterizations. I do not like his Valkyrie. Like she's just a Norwegian woman speaking broken English. Like
Yeah.
she's been around for that version of Valkyrie, not the Jane Foster Valkyrie, has been around comics forever as a member of the Defenders, and she's got a personality, and that's not it. So that's fine. That's gonna happen. But let's talk about the 18th issue of the Secret Avengers, and I'll start because this is my favorite issue of the entire run. This is David Aja art, who is one of my favorite artists, and it's called No Zone, and it's about going into one of the areas of the multiverse where they can steal material from there and stellify, I believe is the scientific technology that the Beast says. They're going to stellify the Earth, which instead of just blowing it up, you're turning it into a sun. And you've got great action sequences of Shang-Chi on MC Escher style stairs against thousands of Shadow Council agents, and fun. And the talk about characterization, I really like Ellis's version of Commander Rogers. I know it's not Captain America at this time in Marvel history, but his Commander Rogers is as much Captain America as Captain America is. He's a great leader, a tactician. This is skipping ahead a few issues, but he's got a great line. He's I don't believe in torture, but my teammates do, so I'm just going to leave the room, and like that kind of thing. So he is a darker version of Captain America you expect with this writer, but he still gets him down, his leadership, his respect, and everything. So I liked this issue. I'll start out by saying that. And then I'll ask Darrin what he thought of this David Aja drawn issue 18 with Shang-Chi, Commander Rogers, and Sharon Carter.
I like seeing Shang-Chi. I think this one was called Strange Matter Ransom too. 18.
Okay.
But I enjoyed I don't know, it was kind of cool to see Shang-Chi actually. I was like, oh, okay. Let's see what happens here. And normally I wouldn't be excited about that, but I was like, all right, that was fine. That was good. Check my notes. The whole potential of the Earth turning into the sun with canister. Again, I mean, I guess we're going back to these issues kind of can stand on their own and things like that. So they all have a very different twist, but still kind of somehow tie in together. Trying to remember where exactly things happen and what issue, so I don't get ahead of myself. Was this the one where Cap pretty much just like was like, forget the rest, forget them. They're all gonna die. And like to your point, Beast had a moral kind of objection to that. He was the only one that showed any type of. Was that in this one?
Yep, that was the first issue, I believe. That was the 16. That was the Subland Empire. He blew up the whole underground, or
Oh,
they turned their time machine against them, and
well, they blend all together, John.
kind of an But in this one, yeah, I don't know. They escaped the not the negative zone, but their own little universe that's part of the multiverse. And I don't know what happens to everybody that's left behind, including some clone of Arnim Zola is there as well.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
And I would turn to Kevin next, but he seems to be frozen, or maybe he's not.
No,
He's
I'm
just
not.
looking.
I got one last thing real quick, but I do like
Sure.
how the kind of the Shadow Council. I like the kind of the element of like they're there, but they're not as in your face as a lot of other comic arcs with the villain and stuff. It was much more of kind of an espionage thriller in that regard, that tied into time travel, which we haven't even mentioned yet, but so
We'll get there.
no.
So Kevin, yeah, what did you think? And another thing I just wanted to mention about Shang-Chi, I guess is in his original Master of Kung Fu series, he was kind of a spy. Like that's what he did. So him working with Black Widow, Sharon Carter, Steve Rogers does make sense for the Secret Avengers team. But What did you think? Are you a fan of the art, the story, any of it, all of it, none of it?
Fan of all of it for this issue. I love the art. I love the characterization of Shang-Chi in this issue. I think he nails it. This was the Shang-Chi I was looking for when I watched the movie, and he was nowhere to be found in that movie. I mean, this is art style and the way it's written. This is 100% Bruce Lee is who this is, and that's who Shang-Chi was originally, a copycat of. Um, so I absolutely love that. The MC Escher stuff reminds me of Labyrinth also. And as a Bowie fan, I'm always happy to be reminded of David Bowie. Um, Everything else in this, I mean, I think it's just a great. I think Ellis and Aja together, I think really understand each other's pacing and timing with action, and so I think the action in this issue is just done 100% just perfectly well. And we'd see this kind of thing mimicked again in um, Ellis's Moon Knight run more than the Karnak run, but still, I think he perfects this with the artists that he works with on Moon Knight. Um, yeah, I love it. I think it's great. Love that kernel of the sci-fi idea of turning the Earth into a star. I think it's just a fun little idea in and out kind of issue. Again, I think it's one you can read again and not necessarily to understand, but just to really understand the how to perfectly pace a comic in terms of action. I think this comic does that. So that's my opinion.
And Jared, how are you going to poo-poo on this now?
Yeah.
Come on. Look at that. Look at that face.
Yeah, so I liked David Aha. I always thought it was Aja, so look at me.
What?
I
David
do too.
Aha on Hawkeye. I thought that was perfect for the pizza dog story and the snow, and it made sense. But then I really probably didn't need to see that art anymore. It just to me it doesn't lend to this story of this super spy type of thing. Now I did appreciate the way that he used the page, the way that I mean it's almost like the way that he posed things and the way it was laid out. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, I had a little seizure there. But that's what I really thought his layouts were really good. I'm just not a fan of his art. And I think for this one, just as an overall, the team dynamic is something I think I struggled with since issue one. This team does nothing for me. It isn't a fun team to me with Captain America not in his costume, and we got Valkyrie, who's like, a sea-level Thor character. War Machine is the poor man's Iron Man. We got Moon Knight trying to figure out who he is and act like himself. Black Widow, Beast, and Sharon Carter. That was definitely a huge part of this whole enjoyability 5-issue arc. It's hard for me to really get into the team.
Okay.
Throw in Shang-Chi though, almost got me. No.
Almost, but not quite.
No.
All right. Well, maybe.
I think for the entire there is one theme for this entire arc, and that's
Yeah.
run the mission, don't get caught, don't get seen. And I
Yes.
think for that theme, I think this, yeah, I'm with you, Jared, where this isn't my favorite team in the world. I normally wouldn't care about it, but I think for that theme, I think he's picking really good teams to play around with in this style that he's doing. But that's
Yeah.
a little bit of defense. I'm sorry.
No. I know this is your guy, and it's nothing personal, nothing personal at all.
No, I mean this is just the last episode.
Well, the next story was
You're going to
issue
get me on a
19.
Claremont. It's okay. Yeah.
Why does he keep explaining Psylocke's powers?
It's a psychic knife, Jared. It's very hard to understand.
The psychic totality of my mental powers.
So in issue 19, we've got Michael Lark drawing a story called Aniana, and this story takes place in Simcaria, but lo and behold, Silver Sable is nowhere to be found, and I just couldn't get past that the whole story. That's her country. What's going on? Jared, can you explain? We ended with you. Let's start right back at you. Do you like this story? This is the one with the Russian mob house. Basically, they break in and
Yeah.
they're drinking or smoking souls of dead titans to
Oh
be,
yeah.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
they're getting their powers that way, and they're going to sell those powers to the Shadow Council unless our Secret Avengers can stop them. And spoiler alert, they do. But how do you feel about how it went down, Jared?
yeah, so what I'm trying to do with each of these issues is kind of give an overarching theme of why I don't like any of this stuff. And so for this one, what I think I'm going to pick is that these stories don't seem to matter in the scheme of things because they are one-offs. Now, there's one-offs like Age of Apocalypse Alpha. Okay, that's a one-off, but that is a one-off that you have to know. If you don't read that, you have no idea what's going on. And then there are the 90s Marvel annuals, which are one-offs. And you could know everything that's happening without reading any of the Spider-Man annual or X-Men annual because those stories don't really count, but it was just kind of another opportunity to see your favorite characters and Marvel to make another 2.99 off you as a kid. And that's kind of how these are feeling to me, is that these are more so the annuals, as that they don't really matter. It's not really a big deal whether you read it or not, as opposed to the one shot, which is really important. So that's what I have to say about this issue.
Kevin, what did you think of this issue? Michael Lark drawing Simcaria and all of its gangster glory.
I loved it. No surprise.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fun issue. Little trivia fact: this is the first appearance of Mr. Knight, that
Oh,
persona of
Oh
Moon Knight.
wow.
Mm.
Um, this is I love the idea of gangsters figuring out a way to turn old gods into drugs and smoking them. It's such a weird idea. Yeah, I mean, like Warren Ellis just tickles that weird horror sci-fi part of my brain a lot of times, and that's what this is. And it's just I find it really interesting. Like, oh, how did he come up with that? That's just really cool. Um, this is not a very deep issue. This is one again, kind of like the issue with the 18 wheeler where there's not a lot of uh re rereadability, I don't think. I think it's weaker in terms of that, in terms of the art. Um, I love the art though. I love the map on the very first panel, so you get to see where all the countries are. I dig fake world maps. Um, yeah, I think it's a really fun issue. I think it has some cool ideas. Um, I get what you're saying, Jared, that this isn't maybe important or maybe not critical, but uh, to me, I grew up in the day where you could just pick up one issue and read it and kind of understand what was going on. And so I think that's another reason why I love these issues is they are the kind of one and done. They there is importance inside the tiny plots of each issue. Like what they're doing is important, even if it's not important to the Marvel universe. It is important in this issue. And so I like what he's doing here. I think they're just fun reads. Yeah, yeah, they're not earth-shattering, but they're just really fun reads. And
yeah.
so that's my take.
And that's good because that's what comics are missing a lot today, like a good fun time. And so for you to be able to get fun out of this, that's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to enjoy
Darren, were
that.
you able to get any fun at all out of this issue?
I did enjoy, overall, like I said, it was a little dry for me, but I did enjoy this issue just because it was so wild out there. Like, I mean, like Kevin said, the gods, the gangsters smoking the gods, rolling, just getting more powerful. And the one major one, gangster thing is just sitting there huffing down all sorts of gods and stuff, like just growing bit. Yeah. I like the art a little bit more in this issue too. Um, uh, as weird as it was, this was a bit more of a thrillerish too in a way. So for me, I guess they all are in a way. One of the things I noticed when looking at these, I'll just go ahead and say it now. All these episodes, and I know we haven't went through them all, is it was very science fiction. Like this would have been like these stories could have probably made a good movie. I don't know if it wouldn't have been necessarily a good Marvel movie, if that makes sense. It would have been a good science fiction movie because these are very like in each one of these stories. If there's many other examples, but like I'm going to think of X-Files from the 90s, how like the overall conspiracy and kind of behind each episode, even though each episode was different, was the UFO conspiracy tie-in and stuff. With this, it's the Shadow Council. Like every single issue comes back to kind of the main, I guess, elements of the arc being the Shadow Council, this conspiracy, but each story stands alone and it's like its own episode, like own little sci-fi episode in a way. They're all different. I mean, like the first one's kind of 16 with, I mean, there's your sci-fi apocalypse thriller. The next one, your zombie thriller. Let's see. Next one would be another apocalyptic, a little bit different, but you kind of get where I'm going with this. Like each one is kind of its own unique style too, um, which that part I did kind of enjoy to a degree. I just didn't enjoy all the issues.
Very good. Yeah, I agree. I love all the sci-fi elements of it. I'm hoping, well, I guess it's been 15 years since this came out, almost 16 now, but it would be cool to see some of these ideas that are created for the one issues more explored in the Marvel universe with the multiverse and mining things there. You have that underground city underneath Cincinnati I don't think we've ever been back there. But this particular issue, the only reason I reread it, I kept looking for Silver Sable, and she's not there. I mean, like that's gutsy right there. You're gonna take a story, have it, like you're gonna take a story and let Viria and Doom's nowhere around or mentioned. I don't know. That's maybe Warren Ellis doesn't even know who she is, but if he's ever flown into Iceland, he would because her mural's all over the wall. Anyways, I'm digressing. Yeah, this one was pretty good for me. Pretty good. And that story, yeah, it's comic books. They're all far-fetched, but right, they're smoking the old souls of the gods who had nowhere to go because they died before there was a heaven. Okay, sure.
It's
all right,
very
we're moving on.
Lovecraftian. I think that's one of the things I like about it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the next one is more of an H.G. Wells thriller, and that is Alex Maleev draws Encircle, where Black Widow has to go back in time after everybody dies in the first 3 pages of this issue. Darrin, did you like this issue? This is another great kind of sci-fi story art, Alex Maleev art from Daredevil days. I don't know if you were are a fan, not.
So when I was first initially reading this, I was just like, oh man, slow down. I mean, I can appreciate that they were trying to do a unique style with the art and things, and there was definitely effort put in. I didn't care for it at first, but now, like, as I was sitting here and I'm like, I just mentioned, like, oh, it kind of reminds me how it's like a different sci-fi episode. I see when now we have our sci-fi about time travel episode. But at the same time, I was like, oh, great, another Marvel time travel episode, which I did not want to read. That makes so I think that was like I'm just kind of burnt out on the time travel stuff, period. And like, oh man, they're popping it in here back in 2010 too. Just like, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of hit or miss for me. It's like I want to like it, but I can't. This issue, I didn't mind that it was Black Widow focused, and then like the whole like, I thought it was very cleverly written, even though I didn't understand it right after the initial read about how she was going back and going to, I guess, essentially all make the she's a year behind, make things happen the way they're supposed to happen without anyone knowing that she's doing, like, just kind of an organic approach. I thought that was kind of unique, but it also made it a little bit more confusing for me after the first read. So
Fair enough. And Jared, you have a big brain. Were you fully encapsulating and everything that was going on and got it like that, but just hated it anyway? Or how did you feel about this Alex Maleev art time travel issue?
Yeah, so for this edition of what I didn't like as a whole for this series, I think I'd like to talk about the art a little bit, in that it was very jarring for me to go from issue to issue with a completely different style. And I think part of that is that I read mine in a trade. So when I read it in a trade, that tells me these all go together. And while maybe story-wise it went together, but these are all just one shots, you know? So I think it's hard for me to get out of the mindset of this is all one story threaded, because I've got this and this should all be one complete story. And it is a story of one-offs, and they're all supposed to look different and have different comprised teams and tell different wild, outlandish, huge stories with that common thread that Kevin was talking about. And though I do have a big brain, my big brain just cannot I don't think I can overcome it. And that's, as we're doing this episode, I think that's what I'm starting to realize I'm struggling with, is that these are just one shots that look so different. And I needed some continuity, some sort of thread of continuity more than just the Secret Council, even if that was just the art. I think that would have been enough to realize that we're going through something, but I'm just so taken aback. And for this issue, I've never been a Maleev fan.
Okay.
I couldn't get into the Jessica Jones stuff or the Daredevil, and
Right.
so this one was rough.
I get it. I just have a follow-up question. What artists of the six that drew in these would you have most liked to see? And I think I know the answer, but
Probably Eminem.
yeah, because
Yeah,
he's the
probably.
most comic booky guy. Everybody else kind of does have that. We should probably be naming the inkers because they probably spent more time on all this, because there's a lot of blacks. There's a lot of blacks in all of these. And I mean the ink, guys. Come on, don't get canceled. What are we talking about? I'm talking about the lines that they draw. Jesus, well. Anyways, Kevin, let's offset. I like you and Jared talking one right after the other, because while me and Darrin are kind of like one, don't like one, you guys obviously have your positions and counterpoint. What is your counterpoint to Jared's
So
point?
first off, if you like Eminem the most, you really should read Next Wave. It's a lot of fun. 12 issues, all the continuity you could want. It's there, not standalone issues. Crazy comic book and Eminem art at the same time. So
And I think
I
all of
do
our viewers
recommend
should
that.
put in the comments if they want us to review Next Wave, and maybe we'll get flooded with 100 comments and we'll have no choice but to make Jared
We'll see
miserable
how
for
many
12
Google
issues
accounts
instead of
I have.
6.
I was gonna
I'll
say
flood it myself.
Kevin
How
McVicker
many dummy
1, Kevin
accounts?
McVicker 2, Kevin McVicker 96.
Um, so I think this is the standout issue of the entire arc. I think this is peak Ellis writing. I think he is doing his absolute best writing here in terms of how he plotted and structured this entire story. Maleev is not a favorite artist of mine, but I think he works in this one because it's not too bombastic. I think he works in kind of more grounded, gritty stories. So I think he does kind of work here. Um, One of my favorite things about this story is how, if the first time you read it, it's very non-linear, but it is linear in the fact that you are actually following Black Widow's story in the order that she experienced it. So even though it's non-linear, you are following her linear progression through the entire events of the story. and that kind of thing, like the genius of how he structured that, of how he played with time travel, the whole uh he played with the idea of time travel paradoxes in this, how the only reason she went back in time was because of this time travel device, but she also had to have the time travel device built when she traveled back in time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there for her to travel back in time. It's this like crazy, wonderful paradox that he plays with. Um, and I I'm honestly one of those guys that normally hates time travel stories because somebody always screws it up and doesn't understand paradoxes and doesn't pay attention to that kind of stuff. And it always, like, the end of every time travel story almost inevitably is going to piss me off. But I think here, like, he sticks the landing, he nails it, and I think this is the most rereadable. I mean, like, I think I read each one of these like once for this one, but I read this one three times because even
Oh,
reading it the first time again, I was like, I don't I don't think, like, I hadn't read this issue in almost 5 years, and I was like, oh, I need to pay attention to this a little bit more. I need to go back through this one. And then I was like, oh, that was just so much fun. I just want to read that again. That's just such a fun issue. It's also the only one I don't physically own because it is a $20 book. And I don't know if I doubt it's because I think it's such a good, well-written story. I think it's because of the cover, but I'm not really sure why it's such a, all the other books in here, like, you can find in a dollar bin, but that one's a kind of a hard one to find. It's a little more valuable. So, but yeah, I absolutely love this issue.
Very good. Yeah, I enjoyed this issue too. I thought this was the most obviously all of the issues are kind of just fun comic action experiences with a cool element of a plot device or a sci-fi story or whatever. This had a little bit more characterization, and it was between, of all people, oh my goodness, Count Kronos and his husband. We discovered his henchman was his husband the whole time, and there is a lot of. Here's what I'm going to say about this that I want to say delicately because I don't want us to get canceled. There's a lot of people who choose their own way out in these stories. You know what I'm saying? You know those things we
yeah.
can't say on YouTube without being canceled. Count Kronos, was it? It's not like Boris.
Pull the
What's it?
Craven.
Uh, yeah, pulling a Craven. Right. A lot of people pulling a Craven. There's at least three or four in
Yeah.
out of 6 issues, which is kind of a lot if
Yeah.
you do
Talking
the
about
math.
Congo.
Congo, that's the guy. And
Yeah.
at the end, when his husband's gone, he said he took some poison himself, and there was the scientist at the end of the trucker one. There's the girl in the next one that we'll get into, which is issue 21 by Stuart Immonen. We'll call him Immonen because there's two M's. And that's Jared's favorite artist. So at least that's something. And it's called Final Level. And it's the last issue of Secret Avengers written by Warren Ellis. So with all that excitement, Jared, how did you feel about this issue?
Yeah, so for my last installment of my series that I'm doing here on the show, I think this was good for me to read because the four of us are all around the same age. All right, we're all in the same kind of spot in life. And so there comes a point in our life, at this time probably, when we start to face our own mortality, right? And you start to look around, look at, Kevin's collection back there, John and Darren's collection, mine, and you say, what do I need? What do I not need? Do I need this? And so I got to ask myself, do I need this book? And I found out I don't. So I don't need this book, and that's good because I've got like 2,000 graphic novels, and I need to downsize. So this will be one of those that will be downsized, and it will make me. What was good about this too is I'm going to reflect and go back to the first graphic novels of Secret Avengers that I have, take a look see over those, and say, do I need this? Am I ever going to reread this on a rainy day? And the answer is probably going to be no. So be watching Mayonnaise 15 on eBay.
Fair
You know
enough.
he's going to
Right,
make a
yeah.
bid.
Fair enough.
I
And
don't
let's
have these trades in
counterpoint
my
that
collection.
with
So,
Kevin, who's missing this issue 20. So maybe he'll be your buyer on the eBay.
yeah, I do have 21.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is another issue I love. I think I have them pulled up on my Kindle next to me. That's why I keep on looking to the side. Sorry. Um, so as a final issue, I think this is a bit underwhelming, especially given how much I like the previous issue. Like I will say that. I think it doesn't it does kind of go out with a bit of a whimper, not with a bang, in terms of Ellis's writing. I don't think that makes this necessarily a bad issue. I just think it, you know, I guess, the roller coaster ends at some point in time and it ends kind of abruptly with this. Um, it's a little bittersweet because obviously being a fan of Ellis's writing, being a fan of what he's doing in these 6 issues, I wanted it to kind of keep on going. I wanted it back in the day to keep going. And I mean, you always got the 6 issues. I can always go read Planetary, which is this is kind of a play on what he was doing there very much. Um, so, Jared, you might actually like that because it's one artist throughout the entire series, John Cassidy, throughout the entire series. So you might actually like that. Um, but yeah, so I like it. I get it. It's not everybody's flavor. I get you why you don't like it, Jared. It does hurt my heart a little bit. I wish you'd liked it a little bit more, but I get it. I get it.
But I like you. I like
I
you.
like you too, man. That's what I want. I like you, so I wanted you to enjoy this. But I appreciate you guys struggling through this. Just to read one of my favorite stories and favorite artists, and I mean authors. So yeah.
I'm just glad they only cost me $1, except for the one if I'm ever looking for them.
Well, what did you think, Darrin? Did you like this one? This one was
Um,
more like Eminence art is more of a traditional comic book
yeah,
art. Did that bring you more
yeah,
into
that
the
definitely
story
helped.
then?
Yeah, that one definitely helped for me. The art definitely was one of the highlights, I think, for this final issue. I'm going to kind of echo kind of what we all are kind of feeling like. This is another one of those Marvel arcs that just ended abruptly, kind of, or it was very like it could have been fleshed out a little bit more. It's like we go from the time paradox story just to this, and then you get this final boss, big monster thing, and he gets smashed. That's how he goes, pretty.
Right.
Which I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like there could have probably expanded a little bit more, maybe made it not. This one didn't necessarily have to be the last issue. They could have fleshed it out, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Every issue's been different though, so it's like, I was sad the big monster got smashed, but well, the next episode's got to be something different. So, or based on how Ellis has been writing these and things. So, yeah, I don't know. Overall, I think it was okay. I didn't dislike the last episode or last issue. It wasn't super great for me, but I definitely had some moments I really enjoyed and I liked it. Just ended abrupt. It was so fast paced and abrupt.
Sure. Yeah, I would have liked to. I agree with you guys. I would have liked to see something with the Shadow, maybe some member of the Shadow Council that has a face and is I think Nick Fury's clone or his brother or something was early in the Brubaker run, running
Yes.
behind the scenes, and then after this, they're still fighting the Shadow Council. So the Secret Avengers as a whole, obviously, Jared will tell you we don't like the team, but I don't like a book where you're facing the same villain every single. I mean, at least he had cool and interesting ways to do it for these 6 issues. It would have been nice for the 6th issue to have, okay, this crazy group of people that are doing these cool scientific sci-fi things. We put an end to them, or we put a stop to them for now, at least, and then the next writer can have the Secret Avengers face whoever he wants. But it seemed like they were only going to face the Shadow Council for the entirety of that book. So that's kind of disappointing to me. But also want to say that all of the covers, I don't know if we said this, were by the late, great John Cassidy. That Black Widow one is worth $20 with her and the bow and arrow on the time travel one, I guess, according to Kevin. So, overall, guys, so how about some final thoughts? We'll start with Darrin. Your final thoughts, 6 issues.
I think
You
I
kind of
need to
been
go.
jumping around, add them all together. What you thought of the whole thing?
I think I need to go back and reread a couple actually, even though I just said it was a struggle. But after hearing kind of this conversation, just everybody's thoughts on different things, especially Kevin, because Warren Ellis is his guy. And then kind of as I was just sitting here, like I mentioned, like, oh, they're kind of all different sci-fi, and I don't know why it just didn't jump out at me like as I was reading it, but as you kind of sit and look at the notes and then some of the titles, I was like, oh, they're all different. I think I would like to go back and reread a few of the ones that I kind of just struggled through, just because it was, like the time paradox. Just see what I could pick up. Anything else, I would be open to do that. They weren't difficult reads. I mean, they were just a little, yeah, a little dry for me after the first one. Not all of them, but a couple of them. So overall, are we going to do the rankings? It's been a while. An M, a six, or a P? Is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, we could. Yes, you're
I
right.
gotta
We
give it a
should. So,
six then. I gotta give it a six just because I can see why there's many people out there who enjoy this. I don't know if it was necessarily for me. Again, I'm gonna go back and reread a couple. But yeah, I think it's right down the middle for me. We'll give her a six.
all right. Before we get to our two debaters, master debaters, even, I'm going to go with give it a 6 as well. Some stories I think that 18 is an M. I think some of the others were, I wouldn't say P, but more 5 out of 6 would be closer to a 6 than an M. So overall, I'm going to have to give it the 6. And but I enjoyed it, and I read them. I think I read all the issues more than once, just preparing for this, and I wasn't bored. I think to Jared's point, you kind of, and to Kevin's point, you have to trust or like Warren Ellis or trust that he's going to give you a story, because he doesn't hook you in with some big flash or cliffhanger at the end of one to lead to the next. You just have to say there's going to be something in this that's going to be, I'm going to be glad I read it. And if you're a fan of his, you're going to do that. And if you're not, maybe you're not. So speaking of, if you're not, Jared, let's hear your overall thoughts.
Yeah, this will be a P for me. This will definitely be a pass. But the world should be more like us. Can I just say that? The world should just be more like us, because
Yeah, sure.
what this did in like a humorous but serious manner, listening to what Kevin had to say about this issue made me look at this through a different lens now. Like, I was very much, this is what this issue is, this is what this issue is, this is what the storyline was, and this is how the art is. And there's really no reason that anyone could ever see it any differently. And then to have Kevin say, well, no, this is why I see it different than how you see an annual. And this is the thorough line the through line that runs through it all. And this is what I appreciate about Warren Ellis. It just makes me say, oh, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I see how Kevin appreciates that art, and that's awesome. That's really great. I can see it through a different lens. So while I said it a little humorously, it would be great if like everybody was a little bit more like the M6P and we could share, and like Kevin and I don't hate each other now,
Right.
or probably, and like it's all
Probably.
good. It's all good.
Well,
So
there
no,
are
The
other
M16.
reasons than comic books. No.
Healing the world one comic at a time. Kevin, this is your guy, Warren Ellis. So I'm going to give you the last word and the last vote here. What did you think
Yeah.
overall?
So yeah, for me, I think this is an M. I don't know how many times I've read through this arc. I really like Warren Ellis's writing. I do get Jared's points, especially with the different artists on each one. There isn't a hook. I know Jared is really big into continuity, so there doesn't I can see why he doesn't think that there's any real weight or why these matter. Um, I can appreciate that view. For me, I just want a really good, fun story when I open up a comic. Um, I also think there's a little bit of critique on comics, and especially on the what's the the big crossover events every year. You know how they all just end. They're all just,
Mhm.
yeah. I think there may be a little bit of a critique inside of this arc and inside of each issue on the big events, um, and how, when you're doing a serialized story, you can't have anything really change for your main characters. Everything kind of has to go back to the 0 point. It's almost like nothing really matters. And I think, you get a little bit of that critique in Next Wave, and I think he's carrying it over here. Um, I think I'm probably reading a little bit too deeply to it because I like it, but I think there is a little bit of a critique here on that. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot more than just the surface level stuff here. And because of that, I think it's an M for me. Everybody who says they hate it though, I also get it because he's not everybody's writer. He's a grumpy old British man. And I mean, hey, he's right up my alley, but yeah, that's not for everyone.
Uh-huh. Well said, everyone. So we've got an M, two sixes, and a P. So this is as right down the line as you can get. This is a story that you'll just have to read for yourself to decide whether you like it or not. And when you do, make sure you come back and make yours the M6P.